I like my ego. Every guy likes his ego a little bit, okay? But I think like this of like, it's really hard to learn something new if you think you know everything. And I think to myself, okay, if you put your ego aside a little bit and you learn some more stuff that would make you more competent, you would earn better results. Competency earns results.
And I think that's what those losses do for you. You didn't get the outcome you wanted. So you got to go back and analyze that. Okay, what can I do better? How did I mess this up? How can I fix that? And then go back out there. If I let that shut me down and I don't go out there, then I'm done. But if I analyze it and figure out where I went wrong, and sometimes it's out of your control. You just made a mistake. That happens. But sometimes you can see, okay, I should have done this, and now I can train and prepare for that eventuality if that comes around again. And now I have the outcome I want.
My first 2 years, I started training MMA when I was 42. Imagine, this elderly. And
I fought till I was 47, so I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay, but you were still world champion when you were, in your 40s.
I managed to pull it off at 44.
The point I mean to make to you is like, how many guys have you even heard of that I started training when I was 42?
Yeah.
All right, and I know I had a lot of catching up to do if I wanted to be any good. I'm not trying to be a pro fighter. I wanted that for fitness, and I wanted that for self-defense. And those are the two things that I said to my coaches from the beginning. I'm in my 40s. I'm not trying to be I'm not going to be a UFC champion. It's not realistic, I'm going to go beat up Tom Aspinall right now. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, I've met him. I've stood next to him. I know the guy. He's a nice guy. Do I think I could beat him in a fight? Seems like a low probability. So, I'm not going to be UFC champion. I'm not going to go win ADCC. Am I going to win ADCC when I, starting at that age? I'm going to go beat Gordon now. Well, Gordon's my friend and one of my best coaches and mentors, and certainly for grappling, he's the best damn grappler in the world ever. And it's just not realistic. The gap in skill set between him and I is so. It's just not realistic. The gap in skill set between him and the other, the number 2 and number 3 black belts in the world is a huge gap. Because he's beat some of them 3 times. It's like he beats them and then beats them again. He beats them so badly. He'll fucking write a note. It's not just write a note. It's like he'll make a new tutorial video, like a new instructional. He'll make a 7-hour instructional video with fanatics, okay? And then, which nobody talks about it at that moment. And then he'll go take a lockbox and write on paper in the box of how he's going to win the match. Is like submission by arm bar, right arm. And some of his matches take a little longer because he's got to get to that position. And then he'll go win like an ADCC match, like top level match. And then he'll say, yeah, open that box. And it'll be exactly what he said. He said, by the way, buy my new instructional. and the guy, if it's a private conversation, I would keep it a private conversation, but he's posted this online. He sold over $10 million in instructionals because think of the audacity that you're fighting the number 2 guy in the world and you're going to call your shot of exactly how you're going to beat him.
It's very Babe Ruth.
And then you're going to show up and but he did it, He did it consistently.
Yeah.
So I understand your Babe Ruth comment of you can go out there and point, and sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. Gordon's been consistent when he's done that. And he's won his last 60-something matches in a row against great guys, But in any case, the first couple of years, I just got my ass beat by smaller people. Yeah. And I just accepted that if I wanted to play catch up, it's like, all right, I got to learn all the ways to fuck up and how I could not be successful at this thing. And then I could start filling in the blanks. So I didn't want to work on offense. So I'm like, well, I need to be defense. I have to have a good defense in 2,000 places in MMA. Yeah. I need to be defensively good in a couple thousand places. And then if you're offensively good and, if you're great at 3 things and proficient at 7 more, you probably can win a lot of things, You can beat a lot of people. I don't have to be offensively great on 1,000 things.
The thing that sticks out to me in that comment is that you never let those ass beatings deter you or discourage you.
Well, I was discouraged.
On that path.
I kept working, but I was plenty discouraged.
Yeah. But you didn't let it make you quit. There's the difference. A lot of guys quit.
Jake said this after he gave me my black belt. A couple of days later, he asked me to do an interview with him, and he said, I really thought that you were going to break. I really thought that you were going to quit at some time because he said, I'd ask you to bring in, let me bring in some blue belts or purple belts that you can move around with. So, and I'm like, no, I just want to train with the best guys. And I got, it's like, Hoist is smaller and older, but, amazing skill set. But the guys I'm being rough with is like Jake, Gilbert Burns, Glover Teixeira, Lyoto. Chuck came over. I was training 4 months, and Chuck came over, and I had bruises for 15 days. And he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything he's not supposed to do. Or he treated me like a pro fighter, and I was a total rookie and a total newbie. I had 4 months of training, and he smashed the shit out of me grappling, and put me on the ground and smashed me. And by the time I could manage to accidentally fight my way up on occasion, I'd be out of breath, and he'd throw me on the ground and smash me some more.
Yeah.
And those are some tough moments that, and I just like, well, if I could get past those moments, you suck a little bit less tomorrow, and then later on when you don't suck anymore, it's like, all right, I'm very defensively sound. Like those guys can't do that shit to me, and they say so. Frank Mir said that. Frank Mir is a good friend, and I have high respect for him. You know Frank well.
Yep. Great guy.
And Frank made a comment a bit over a year ago. He's like, I can't tap Derek anymore. If he wants to be defensive, I can't catch a submission on him anymore. It's got to be a transition period. And we're both looking for that transition period where one of us can do something explosive and find a more advantaged position. So, but that didn't happen because I was comfortable. I put myself in miserable places and humiliating places. Really, Girls that fight at 115 had come tap me on occasion. Michelle Watterson, I had to tap a couple times to Michelle Watterson or Claudia, who are 115-pound weight division. They show up at 135 or something, but I was 300 pounds. I was out of shape. I was fat and 300 pounds when I started. But like that wasn't like fun. That wasn't fun for me to like tap for a little girl.
Yeah.
And over time, you fix the things, and you fix the things, and you fix the things, and then you get beat up in more sophisticated ways, and you fix those things and fix those things.
I think if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're not in a pond where you're getting your ass whooped on occasion, then you're not progressing. You're not getting any better. If I'm the big fish in that pond, I'm in the wrong place. I'm done progressing, and I'm done getting better. I think that adversity, getting your butt whooped, that forces you to analyze things and to make adjustments, to learn, to continue to progress. And when you're handling it all and you're done progressing, you're not getting any better at that point. So you need to find those uncomfortable places and continue to be willing to put yourself out there if you want to continue to progress and continue headed in that forward direction. I experienced that myself. I'd been in school since I was 17, graduated high school. By the time I was 19, I was in the Army. And I thought wrestling was done for me. I had a family, I'm in the service. Little did I know, in peak of the Cold War, we had 5 million soldiers in Central Europe, and sports programs in the Army, boxing and wrestling especially, were very big because of the combative nature of them. Now, I end up an alternate on the 88 Olympic team as a soldier in Greco. I didn't get any love out of high school as a one-time state champ from Washington from any of these college coaches, and now I'm an alternate on the Olympic team. 6 years later, they're like, who the fuck is this kid? Where did he come from? And now the phone starts ringing. And I have an opportunity and a choice to make. And it was a scary choice because I was supporting my family and chasing that Olympic dream as a soldier. And I had to decide, am I going to take this college scholarship and go get a college degree and wrestle in college? I hadn't wrestled folk style since I was 17 years old. Hadn't been in school and sat in a classroom since I was 17 years old. Now I'm going to go take a scholarship and go back to school at 25? It was a crazy decision. And man, I didn't get a takedown in that damn wrestling room at Oklahoma State for 6 months. I'm like, I was just a freaking alternate in the Olympic team, and I can't even score on one of my training partners in this gym, in this mat room. I was so frustrated. And my coach pulled me to the side, and he's like, dude, you got to recognize where you're at and who you're rubbing elbows with and what you're doing. Yeah, you're going to take your licks. And it didn't matter that you were just standing on the podium in Greco and on the Olympic team. This is a whole different animal here. So I had to re-immerse myself in scholastics. I had to re-immerse myself in folk style, and I got my butt kicked. Chris Barnes, Mike Farrell, Kenny Monday. I couldn't score on these guys to save my life. They were driving me crazy for 6 months. And then it started to turn because I stayed in there. I kept sweating. I kept bleeding. And they helped me. I would ask them questions. Man, how the hell did you do that? And they would tell me because they were my teammate and help me figure it out. And then the next time it wasn't so easy. You couldn't put those legs in. Couldn't turn me over. Couldn't take me down that way because they were part of my process. They were helping me. So again, having those right guys around you, being willing to be vulnerable, ask those questions, not act like you know it all or figured it all out because you haven't. It's a huge piece. I know exactly what you mean by feeling like, God, I'm just getting my ass kicked every day here.
It was literally every day.
But forged in fire.
My body hurt, my ego hurt.
Yeah.
My ego hurt even worse than my body. But after a while, you're like, okay, I got that, And
Yeah.
then I kept training difficult positions. I kind of got, I have an obsessive brain. I get excited about doing the same things repetitively and little details and nuances.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I have everybody come over. I'm like, all right, take my back however you want to, double leg hooks and seat belt or body lock, if they got long enough legs to get a body lock on me and seat belt. And we start there, and I have to fight out of that all the time. And I got so comfortable doing that I don't need to say the guy's name, but he's a former heavyweight champion. And he said, in a different training when we were playing around, and he's like, oh, you got to be careful here, Derek, or I'm going to take your back. And I said, I don't mind if you take my back.
Yeah.
And he was a little insulted by that, and he's like, oh, you don't mind. And I'm like, I say respectfully, but come take my back. See if you can control me from there. And he went 0 for 23. I got out just boom, 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 boom. You can't keep me for 25 seconds.
Worst case scenario training. That's what I called that. Yeah. Tito Ortiz takes me down. I've got a problem, and I got to figure out how to survive that problem to get myself back in the fight. So I put myself in that situation in camp over and over and over. There wasn't too many guys in that room that could actually take me down and hold me down. But if Tito took me down and hold me down, I might have a problem. So I put myself in that worst case scenario over and over and over and figured out how I was going to get my ass back up from underneath him, because that's how he won most of his fights. Stood around in front of Chuck Liddell, he's probably going to catch you with one of those long levers right on the end of that. I had to make friends with that. And I thought, damn it, he may knock me out, but I'm hitting him. I'm going to step into the pocket and I'm going to hit him first. And that threw him off. He didn't expect that. Everybody had that respect for his ability in that striking range, and his ability to defensively wrestle and make fighters stand up with him. And I had to make friends with the possibility I was going to get knocked out, but I was going to step in the pocket and hit him first. And that worked. And the second and third fight, what did he do? He knew he had to make adjustments or he was going to get the same outcome from that first fight. He got on his bike and made me chase him in that second and third fight. He didn't stand and plant his feet and dare me to come in like he did everybody else until I beat him. And then I'm chasing this guy on this bike, and it's much harder to take him down, much harder to close the distance and get where I needed to be to beat him, to win. Different outcome in a second and third fight because he made the appropriate adjustments, and I had to take a wild ass guess as to what adjustments he was going to make.
I think, just to the group, don't be discouraged by that. These are the things that give you a competitive advantage. And these are the things that'll give you confidence in any particular context of if you, in business is the same way as the comment I made about MMA, you might have a different opinion and your opinion is worth more than mine because you got 6 more belts than I do. But I think to myself about MMA, it's like a couple thousand things that you have to be good at defensively. There's a lot of ways you can get yourself fucked up that you got to be aware of. You don't have to be great at 2,000 things offensively. It's kind of what I said. If you could be excellent at 3 or 5 things and proficient at 10 or 20 more, you probably can win a lot of fights like that. If it's hard to hurt you and you got a few things you're really good at of imposing yourself on somebody else, and you're not overextending yourself on your offense because you feel very confident about your defense, you can win a lot of fights that way. And the stock market's very similar. It's like, I don't want to do stupid shit to lose money. And I don't need to swing at every ball. I don't need to, people ask me, I shouldn't make fun of them, but people that have less experience or aren't thinking very clearly, yet, I hope, so what are you buying today? What are you selling today? Like most days I don't buy or sell anything. Most days I'm just observant, see what's going on in the world today.
You watch this video all the way through, and that tells me you're dedicated to learning more and earning far above average outcomes in your life. Congratulations for that. But now it's time to take action. If you could have earned those results by yourself, you would have done it already. My head coach has opened up a few spots on his high-demand calendar for an in-person, one-on-one strategy session to help you. On this call, we'll give you the pragmatic advice that you can implement tonight to get laser-focused on the right metrics and leave mediocrity far behind in your past. Click that link right now in the description below and apply for your call immediately. Do it now.